The Algerine-class was born out of necessity, not prestige. By 1940, the Royal Navy had learned a harsh lesson: the small, early-war minesweepers were simply not enough. They lacked the range, endurance, and flexibility to deal with the growing mine threat, especially the new magnetic and pressure mines that could sink ships without warning. The Admiralty needed something bigger, sturdier, and capable of doing more than just sweeping. They needed a ship that could escort convoys, fight submarines, and clear minefields across the world's oceans. And so, the Algerine-class minesweepers were conceived, practical, reliable, and built to serve anywhere they were needed. Between 1942 and 1944, shipyards in Britain and Canada turned out Algerines at a remarkable pace. In total, around 110 ships of the class were built, using two different propulsion types to speed production. British-built vessels used steam turbines, while Canadian yards preferred simpler reciprocating engines. This approach allowed more yards, even those without experience in warship construction, to contribute to the war effort. On paper, the Algerines were modest vessels, about 225 feet long, with a beam of 35 feet, and a displacement of just over 1,000 tons. They carried a single 4-inch or 4.7-inch gun forward, supported by 20mm Oerlikons and later 40mm Bofors for air defense. Below decks, they carried the latest minesweeping gear, Aztec sonar, and depth charges, making them versatile enough to hunt submarines as well as mines. They weren't glamorous, but they were adaptable, a perfect wartime balance of simplicity and utility. The Royal Navy and the Royal Canadian Navy used their Algerines slightly differently. The British ships often carried full minesweeping outfits and operated in flotillas that supported amphibious operations or cleared harbors after battles. The Canadian ships, on the other hand, were frequently used as convoy escorts across the Atlantic. Many were completed without their sweep gear so they could concentrate on anti-submarine warfare in the North Atlantic and the cold, treacherous waters of the Arctic. Wherever they served, Algerines quickly earned reputations for toughness and reliability. They escorted convoys through the worst of the U-boat war, patrolled mined waters, and cleared approaches before amphibious landings. During Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa, Algerines were among the first ships to ensure safe landings by clearing German and Italian minefields. Later, during the invasions of Sicily and Italy, these small ships again swept paths through dangerous waters, keeping the sea lanes open for the massive fleets behind them. Without them, those landings, and the steady supply of fuel and ammunition that followed, would not have been possible. Life aboard an Algerine was hard. They were small ships, crewed by about 85 to 100 men, with cramped quarters and little comfort. In the North Atlantic, sailors faced freezing spray and bitter winds. In the Mediterranean, they baked in relentless heat. Their days were filled with routine, sweeping operations, escort duties, long watches at sea. But the work was never dull. Every contact on sonar could be a submarine. Every faint metallic echo on a sweep cable could be a mine. There was no room for mistakes. The machinery was dependable but required constant attention. The reciprocating engines used in many Canadian ships were simple and rugged, easy to maintain even in rough conditions. The turbine-driven British versions were faster and smoother, but more complex to repair. Still, both types shared the same hull and general layout, allowing crews to move between ships with ease, a major advantage in wartime. Their equipment made them versatile defenders. Their magnetic and acoustic sweep systems could neutralize all kinds of mines, and their sonar allowed them to track submarines that tried to ambush convoys. While they lacked the power of a destroyer, their steady handling and dependable design made them excellent escort vessels, capable of holding formation in almost any weather. A few Algerines were lost in action, some to mines, others to aircraft or U-boats, but the vast majority survived the war. Their resilience became legendary. Ships of the class served in every major theater: the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, the Arctic, and even the Far East. They rarely made the headlines, yet without them, ports could not open, convoys could not pass, and invasions could not proceed. When the guns finally fell silent in 1945, the war's end didn't mean rest for the Algerines. The seas were littered with millions of deadly mines. In Europe and Asia alike, ports and shipping lanes had to be cleared before trade could resume. The Algerine-class ships became the backbone of post-war mine clearance operations, steady, proven, and familiar to their weary crews. For years after 1945, they continued to sweep harbors and shipping routes, ensuring that the peace was not shattered by the hidden dangers left behind. Their usefulness didn't end there. Many Algerines were converted for peacetime duties, as training vessels, survey ships, or patrol craft. Others were transferred to Allied navies, including Belgium, France, Italy, Greece, and several Commonwealth nations, where they served well into the 1950s and even the 1960s. The fact that so many found second lives is proof of how solidly they were built and how adaptable their design turned out to be. One of the quiet successes of the Algerine class was standardization. With so many ships sharing a common layout and design, training and logistics became far easier. A sailor trained on one Algerine could serve on another with little retraining. Spare parts were interchangeable, and shipyards knew the systems inside and out. This consistency saved time, money, and effort, and in wartime, those were precious commodities. Speed was never the class's strong point. At around 16 to 17 knots, they were far slower than destroyers, but that was not their purpose. Their value lay in their endurance, their stability, and their ability to work safely in mined waters. They were designed to endure long patrols and dangerous conditions, not to chase fast enemies. In that, they were perfect, steady, predictable, and always ready to work. The men who served on them often described the experience as one of quiet pride. There was no glamour in sweeping mines. The work was repetitive, methodical, and always dangerous. But every successful sweep meant a convoy could sail safely, a port could reopen, or a landing could proceed without loss. In the great machine of naval warfare, the Algerines were the gears that kept everything turning smoothly. Their story also marks a key step in the evolution of mine countermeasure vessels. Later generations, the modern wooden-hulled and fiberglass ships of the Cold War, inherited much from the Algerines' design. Endurance, modular gear, and specialized crews all trace their roots back to these wartime ships. They were a bridge between the small, improvised sweepers of early World War II and the purpose-built, high-tech mine hunters that followed. By the 1960s, most Algerines had been retired or scrapped, their steel recycled and their names quietly forgotten. But their legacy remains. They represent a generation of ships that rarely made headlines but formed the indispensable foundation of Allied naval power. Every safe convoy route, every invasion landing, and every post-war trade lane owed something to the men and ships that swept the seas clean. From the gun decks to the bridge, every story we tell honors those who served. If this tale made you feel the salt and steel of history, give it a like, and if you're not yet part of our channel's convoy, subscribe and join the ranks. More powerful stories await.